What is going on, everybody? It's MidLife Live 7, my live stream for July. Super excited for tonight. I've got three fantastic guests, three guys that I like a lot, and there's a lot of camaraderie and maybe some banter that might go down with this group of guys. So who is it again? Let's take a look.
Oh boy, this is going to be another great MidLife Live. We've got Jake of Wax Pack Wisdom, Mike, Junk Wax Hero, and Dan of Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. We're running it back.
I'm not good at it. Like Greg of MidLife Cards does an amazing job with his AMAs. I'm not going to live up to that. If you're expecting that, go over to his channel.
Slap yourself on the side of the head and say, why didn't I think of that?
I don't have a crystal ball.
A tangential rant here, Greg. I have now, because you mentioned this and you made me paranoid about it, I'm not having another live stream because of it. It's made me think you're in my head.
They shipped them away for garbage, absolute trash.
Get that needle out of your arm and watch my show.
We met at a McDonald's parking lot,
I don't mind being an oddball.
but occasionally I get a little frustrated.
My wife makes sandwiches at the local religious affiliation place.
67 pinups. Remember, Jeff, when you opened a cello pack of the 76 tops, whatever, and there was a pinup of Roberto Clemente? Obviously, maybe you don't remember that, but you also didn't know what that was.
I'm not threatening anybody, but I'm saying right now, I'm a lawyer.
I don't know what's going to happen. Why am I a fan of the Red Sox?
Your views are evolving. That doesn't make you stupid.
And it's just not true.
I'm going to have a 24-hour live stream, Greg, and you are going to be on all 24 hours. I had to go to Wikipedia to look up Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, I've heard of it, but I'm not 80 years old like you, and I'm not a teacher like Greg.
It was not my idea.
You can call anything you want a Grail card.
I am out in front of TD Garden, home of the world champion Boston Celtics and whatever the hell the Bruins are.
I'm not a hobby positivity guy, but
Put me on the full screen here.
Okay.
I have nothing of value to add here. Were we on a live stream? I don't remember that.
And it's just false.
Everything is an oddball, then nothing is, except the one that isn't.
Well, how's it going, Dan? What's going on over there? You got sunglasses on.
so, I'm an advanced age.
We know.
Greg of MidLife Cards does an amazing job.
17 months they held this card from me.
Is that a long time?
These are the ramblings of a semi-literate fan here.
Hey, we're here to talk about cards of people who are irrelevant in the hobby, but does anybody have one of Dan?
And I love that you did that video, Greg, because it proves exactly what I think, which is that PSA, when it comes to grading vintage baseball, doesn't know anything.
I appreciated that 25-minute intro so I could take a little nap. All right, all. Thank you very much. This was a blast. I had a great time, but Celtics game with my family. Gotta go. Thanks,
Well,
Greg,
thanks for coming on, buddy. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
See you.
Bye, Mike.
Had a great time.
See you, dude. So now is this where we start talking crap about Mike? This is a fun group of guys, and this is going to be a very, very entertaining night.
All right. So these guys, you can see there's a little bit of fun that we like to have together. And the first guy I'm going to bring out is the best dressed guy in the group today. Dan, I love that outfit. What a shirt. How are you, my friend?
Great shirt. I should give a shout out to Scott from Reindeer Studios, who has these in his Etsy store. I think that everyone should go buy one.
Not only in his Etsy store, but he just launched reindeerstudios.com.
Oh, yeah.
And to the 101 people already in the chat, go over to reindeerstudios.com. We'll take a look at that here in a little bit. Who do you want to bring out next? Do you want to bring out Mike or do you want to bring out Jake? I'm going to let you decide, Dan.
Well, I would much rather talk to Jake, But we got to get Mike out before he falls asleep. So I think you should
It
bring Mike out.
might be too late. It looks like he is sound asleep. Sound asleep. Mike, wake up. Hey, it's time.
Sorry.
You're on, buddy. You're on.
I was good there.
I
through
came
the
prepared,
intro.
Mike. Here's a pillow. Here's a pillow for
Oh,
you.
thank you. I was good there through the intro until Dan started talking, and then
Right
was
out. All right, and let's bring out our good buddy Jake from Wax Pack Wisdom. Hey, Jake.
I don't think I could possibly top the fake sleeping when I actually did legitimately think it was possible that Mike was asleep. So that was very convincing. I don't think I could top that. But what's up, guys?
Well, we're going to have a fun time. We've got a ton of people in the chat. I will be running through the chat constantly. To those of you, for some of us, this is our third straight night of hanging out. On Saturday, Jeremy Lee with his Sports Cards Live was fantastic, and Mike was the leadoff guest for that. That was great. And then last night over on For Collectors, Dan ran a stream. That was fantastic. And then, so we got 3 straight nights. So, this what more can a person ask for? With that said, I promised Mike that he would be able to have a little mini rant to get us started.
you're gonna have to pause for a minute. There's something happening with my cat, and this is real. I'm actually serious. I will be back.
I hope everything's okay with the cat. Okay, so we'll move him backstage while he deals with the cat crisis. Let me ask you.
I don't think that's a bit.
No, it's
No, I
not
don't
a
think
bit.
that was either.
That's not a bit. So
Okay.
all love for the cat. I hope everything's okay there. Jake, what's with your shirt? I mean, I
got to get on the Scott train. I don't have it. I'm wearing my World Baseball Classic shirt from 2 years ago. But yeah, I got to get on the Scott train. It's my bad. I didn't know. If I had known, I would have placed an order.
Yeah. Well, you know what? While we're talking about Scott's shirts and Mike is dealing with his issue, I'm going to jump over right now because I really want to shout out for our buddy Scott. He just launched his website. So this is not an ad, but it is a recommendation. So check this out real quick.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everybody's best friend, Scott, over at Reindeer Studios. He just launched his new website, reindeerstudios.com. And you can see down here, he's got art, he's got apparel, he's got all sorts of awesome stuff. And we know what a talented guy he is. So if we look up here at the links, we're going to click on shop and you'll see links to each category of his awesomeness. And I really encourage you to consider it. But over here in apparel, whether you're going to a local card show or you're going to the national, you want to look fitted in your sports card themed gear. And Scott's got all sorts of awesomeness here. He's got the Sports Flicks shirts. He's got Lou Gehrig Says, but if you look down here, he's also got MidLife gear. The home of MidLife gear is over here on Scott's channel. Now, if you buy a MidLife sports card shirt, I will say that things run a little small. I would add one size up from what you usually order. So if you're normally a large, I'd get an XL. I am sporting this shirt as I record this MidLife with the kind of heather gray, I guess. Anyways, Scott is a great guy. Support him over at reindeerstudios.com.
All right. So again, that's just the Dahigo that he recently did was fantastic.
Amazing.
He's a highly talented guy, and show him some love, especially before the national. It looks like Mike is back. Everything okay, buddy?
Actually, I want to thank Ruben because Ruben commented, I'm sure Mike's cat will make an appearance. And I looked over at my cat and he's just breathing at a very alarming rate. I don't know if he's having a panic attack. I don't know. My wife came down. She's monitoring him and might take him to the emergency vet. But now he's licking himself. Like
Cats are weird, man.
Yeah.
Well,
They
if something
weird
comes
stuff.
up, this is secondary. This is fun stuff, not serious stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
just
go
never see
ahead
me breathe like that.
and give you a minute to collect yourself before you start your rant, unless you'd like to start it now.
I'm ready when you are.
All right, let's rant it up then. So just a little bit of background. On my video, I believe it was Wednesday that posted, I had a question about different slabbing companies, different grading companies besides just PSA and SGC. And in it, I mentioned that Mike had recently done an episode about how he was slabnostic. In fact, something he talked about on the conversation on Sports Cards Live with Jeremy Lee on Saturday night. And Mike jokingly kind of needled me that I maybe didn't tell his whole side of the story on why he's slabnostic. And so I get in my inbox the following, which is Mike on an airplane with a voodoo doll that says MidLife with pins in it, with a Beefo shirt on. And I said, I'm going to give you the opportunity to give your side of the story. So the floor is yours, my friend.
By the way, that ChatGPT, put the photo back up. ChatGPT made that. I sent it a photo of me glaring at the camera, and I think it did a pretty decent job. The second one, can you show the second one? Do you have that prepped
I
up?
don't have that one. I'm sorry.
It, for some reason, added a mini me sitting on my lap, and I could not figure out why. It was very strange. So I was watching Greg's video on whatever last week, one of his 9 videos last week, and he took a question from a viewer that said something about Mike Junkwax Hero is going slabnostic. What do you think? And Greg said a bunch of things, as Greg is wont to do. But he connected this with PSA issues, mistakes that PSA makes, which has nothing to do with why I'm going slabnostic and moving away from PSA, not submitting anything to PSA anymore. Actually, I talk a lot about this, how I'm entertained by PSA's mistakes. They don't bother me. They're silly and funny. They make just as many mistakes as most companies, in my estimation. And they actually probably fix them all pretty quickly and for free. Most of them, anyway. I like CGC because they have JSA, and JSA is very reputable. I talk about, we don't know who the top dog is going to be in 20, 25, 30 years when I'm old like Dan, and that's important to me. And then, Greg, remember, this is still semi-early in Greg's rant. He says, do I think Mike is making a mistake? Not necessarily, which is definitely a yes. And then he spends literally 15 minutes explaining why I was making a mistake and ignored all of my arguments. So that's really it.
Okay. Well, let me first say that I don't think the whole rant was directed at whether you were making a mistake. I felt like that was a period, end of sentence. Let me now give my opinion. I continue to personally think that grading is a because a lot of people care about it, it matters for resale value and it matters for liquidity. And that's kind of where I stand on it. I don't want it to be a 2-horse race. I want it to be a 10-horse race. But I realize we are where we are. So I actually have a lot of respect for your reasonings for turning away from PSA and towards CGC. But anyway.
Coach Miller, you're killing me. Killing me. Oh. Yeah, I think we can talk about that.
I want to say for the record that I'm by far the youngest person on this panel, by far.
Actually,
many years.
Mike and I are the same age. Dan
exactly. That's my point.
Yeah. Dan is 10 years older than the rest of us. Isn't it 10 or more?
15.
15.
I'm just young at heart. That's all,
Exactly.
Now
he stays up. Dan stays up late. as we've learned.
Now, a lot of what we were gonna talk about today is national related, strategy of where we're headed with our collections related. But then Mike dropped a video today, which has gotten tons of attention immediately. Dan's pissed already. That's okay. And
Dan's going to sleep now.
He said that he is not happy with PSA's potential decision to change auctions. So if you're just eBay, what'd I say?
You said PSA.
eBay has decided. eBay is at least exploring the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but of when an auction is about to end, if in the last 2 minutes there is a bid, then the auction would extend another 2 minutes, which would basically negate sniping. And Mike got on and he said, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So Mike, you tell us what did you say about eBay's potential new policy? You don't like it.
Yeah, I said selfishly, I don't like it, but I understand this maybe isn't bad for the industry and it's bring them more in line with other auction houses. But I personally don't like it. It affects me negatively, which means it's bad. And I believe that they are already testing it. If I remember correctly, it's not something that they're considering. It is currently being tested.
And then in our little chat in preparation for today, Dan had some strong opinions, thinking that it was a good idea. Is that right, Dan?
Well, Mike said, well, this is the way auctions work. And I said to myself, and I think a lot of people in his comments have agreed with this.
I did not say no.
I literally quoted you.
I read a tweet that said, this is how auction works. And I corrected them and said, that's not actually true. Most auction houses work this way. Yeah.
And eBay is now doing what most auction houses do, which is to not have a hard end to the auction. There is a grace period. There is an extended bidding period. And, I don't like losing to shill bidding. Not shill bidding. I'm sorry. I don't like losing to sniping. But I more hate shill bidding. And I think what eBay is doing is not just going to eliminate sniping, but I think it's going to expose shill bidding. I think that it's going to give them an opportunity to see where the shill bids are coming from. And because it's a problem. Shill bidding is a real problem on eBay. And you see it all the time. Cards that get listed get way over comps, and then you see them relisted again. And, the same thing happens. And certain dealers are known or have a reputation for shill bidding, but I feel like it's something that we're just scratching the surface in that regard. I think shill bidding is way worse of a problem than we know. And I think eBay is really doing something to try to solve it, essentially.
How does this new policy help prevent shill bidding? Well, seems like it could create more.
By the way, I love that Dan's looking for reasons to get mad at me, and he got mad at me for a tweet that I read that wasn't even my tweet. I love that.
I'm not looking for reasons to be mad at you. I literally didn't want this fight. I don't want this fight. I disagree with Mike. I respectfully disagree with Mike. I will say anything to insult him, but I will not disrespect an opinion like this. And so, he uses Gixin or whatever the hell it's called. More power to him, but it's not gonna work anymore. But the question is really, how does it? I think it's a data thing. I think they're going to be able to recognize, because it's gonna isolate the shill bidders. Once you're in that 2 minute period, once you're in that extended bidding period, you're going to be able to see the shill bidders. I think that's the case. I could be wrong. It may be that they just want to get rid of the Gixins of the world, and they probably will.
I guess that I haven't had a chance to watch all of Mike's video yet, but like it comes down to a lot of, as a lot of things are in this, is it's about business. It's about making money. eBay, the reason why I don't like it is because this is great for sellers on eBay. It seems like
Yeah.
but ultimately it's great for eBay because if it's great for sellers, it means that cars are going to sell for more, and they're going to get more money in their cut. So that's why I don't like it, because I think it's going to drive, and we're going to see it reflected in the comps of cards. It's going to drive prices up across the board. And maybe it's artificially been deflated a little bit as it is, but I think that's ultimately it's going to make cards more expensive, and I don't like that.
Jake, I'm very sorry that my 9-minute video was too long for your Gen Z brain.
9 minutes.
Wow,
it's
that
6
is
if you play it
okay.
a minute at 1.5 speed.
Don't confuse the generations here. I am not Gen Z. I take offense to that.
Hey, I saw Adam mentioned after he loves post 9 p.m. Mike. Are we allowed to swear on YouTube after 9 p.m.?
I mean, whatever you do represents you. I mean, whatever is authentic Mike is what I want.
Can I just say one more thing about this?
Of course.
Most of you guys know this, and probably a lot of the guys, friends in the chat. I do most of my buying online through auction houses, and those auction houses have the extended bidding, and I think the extended bidding gets rid of any. There's no sniping. I don't feel like, and Mike disagrees with me on this, but I don't feel like there's any shill bidding necessarily on auction houses on cards that I'm involved in. I can't talk about the $50,000 cards or whatever, but I feel like auction house bidding is way more fair than eBay bidding, and that's why I spend most of my time there instead of eBay.
I want to be clear that. Sorry, I had to respond to what Tony just said. I want to be clear. The reason why I haven't watched all of Mike's videos because I was busy. I didn't have time between the thing I was doing before this and when this started. So continue. Sorry.
I love that Dan is anti-sniping, and that's all he does in my comments every day.
That's trolling, Mike. You got the two things wrong.
Oh, right.
Well, I think that to your point, I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that didn't Dan Blue Jacket do a video about some of the auction houses in their wording? They're allowed to shill bid.
Yes.
So to think that they aren't now, they're probably not on the $500 card that you and I are bidding on, Dan. But it seems like shill bidding is kind of
two specific auction houses do that. All the others don't do it. So it's Golden, who I canceled my account with as soon as I saw that video, and it's what's the big one that does a lot of Heritage. Heritage is the other one. Thank you, Larry. And Heritage, to me, a lot of it is it's just prices me out just with the the lots that they have. So the ones that I generally go to are REA, Love of the Game, Collector Connection, Brockman Auctions, Wheatland. All of those auction houses do not allow internal bidding, internal involvement whatsoever in their auction. And that, gives them they don't have a conflict of interest. You don't feel cheated, and you can get deals if under the right circumstances. So those auction houses are in fact doing a fair, even playing field bidding process. The others don't, and those two I do not give them any of my business.
As a small spender, the only auction house I feel comfortable in is Collector Investor Auctions, because I feel like Golden and Heritage and these other big boys, REA, are looking at me like, this guy's looking at the $7 cards. How do we get him off of our website?
Yeah. I don't
Collector
think they like
Investor
me
Auctions,
that much.
I should say Collector Investor Auctions is one of the sponsors for Vintage Trade Night for collectors. We're running it, so that's my number one. I have to mention For Collectors 10 times tonight, so that's number one.
Great segue, Dan. That was a professional job.
But Collector Investor Auctions is another auction house that is an even playing field. They specifically have rules against internal involvement, shill bidding up the price to what a minimum that they put on it, all that stuff. So I didn't mention them, but I should have.
John Rambo reusing his own comment. I liked it. Good comment. He's reuniting it
So
here.
now for a
Shame.
couple
Shame,
of
John
little
Rambo.
housekeeping issues. So 165 of you have showed up to be live with us tonight, and that to me honestly is the biggest compliment you can give me, is to show up live.
Awesome.
It makes it so much more fun. I'm always scanning the chat, trying to feature some stuff, and we'll highlight certain ones. When I'm talking like I am now, I can't, but I will be actively working the chat all night. So keep going with that. Now, one of the main topics that I had for us tonight was a continuation from my video that posted this morning, which was, is a list a good thing or a bad thing? And I genuinely can see the pros and cons to each. So I asked these three gentlemen to share their thoughts on whether a list was a good thing or a list was a bad thing. And they all agreed, which is kind of boring. They all said that lists are good, but I know that, you know, you guys might have varying opinions of what that means. Jake, to you, when you say, yes, we should have a list, I mean, I know all four of us will be at the National. What does that mean to you when you say that somebody should have a list heading into a show? Like, should they have a list and stick to it and only buy off of it? Or what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I would never say that you should rigidly stick to a list that you bring to any kind of a card show or any situation that you're in terms of collecting. Like, I think in general, I know that a lot of folks, and I watched, I did watch Greg's video, which was like a half hour, so I do have like I don't have an attention span problem. I had time earlier to watch it. There were a lot of great answers and a lot of people, and I had left a comment where I said that basically that I always have to have a list. I'm a list guy. I've been a list guy my entire life, and so I always have to have a list to work off of. And it's helpful for me because I might forget that there are certain things that I'm interested in, or it might relate to something else, or I might see something and will trigger and be like, okay, what's on my list, that kind of thing. So I always have to have a list no matter what. But I would say that rigidly sticking to a list, you are running the risk of you very well could just come away from any show experience extremely disappointed. If you are only like saying, I have this list that has this number of cards and I'm only going to buy off this list and I'm not going to buy anything else. If that's how you like to collect, that's fine. To me, that sounds like torture. Because I couldn't imagine being, especially, and now this will be my first national, so I've never been to a show this size before, but I couldn't imagine going to a multi-hundred table show like that and being so rigid with my list that I just would be like, well, nobody's got what I want here, so I'm not going to buy anything. I mean, that's wild to me, but I respect the way that other people collect. So to me, it's like, I would have to have a list, but Greg, it is interesting the way that you worded the question of should collectors bring lists to the National. I answered yes, because I just think, to me, it's like you have to have an idea of what you want to buy. But to me, that's more what it is. It's just like have a sense when you go what you want, but it doesn't have to be a list that you have to stick to completely rigidly. That's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to continue talking about this, but I did pull a clip from last night from the For Collectors stream that Dan was hosting. So I want to take a quick look at that. So let's check this out here.
I think that what you guys are saying is absolutely correct. Like, do not, you can improvise. It's like a jazz concert. You go in there and some of the best things you are done are improvised. So if you go in with a list and you stick to the list, and the thing that you want on the list is not there, then you're going to walk around disappointed, right?
I think that was a really good analogy, Dan, about a jazz concert. That's the whole point of jazz, is to show creativity and to go in whatever direction things go. And I think for me, in the the three biggest shows that I've attended in the last year and a half, Strongsville twice, National once, the cards I showed up at the top of my list, I never got. They were the cards at the top of my list. But then the cards that were way down my list, that weren't really on my physical list, those I ended up buying because I pivoted because of what was available. The concern I have, though, is what if you spend all your money because you're trying to be open-minded on this thing over here, and then the thing that was at the top of your list, you've now kind of blown your budget and you can no longer really attack that. So in that clip that I just pulled a short section of, you also had just turned to Darren and said, isn't that what happened to you at Strongsville 2024? Where Darren showed up with one card at the top of his list. That card was not in the room. And Darren was like visibly like frustrated the whole night. And then late that night at a hangout, he ended up buying a card, and then he just pivoted and went nuts. Did you? I shared a little bit. Is there more you wanted to say about that, Dan?
Well, you're exactly right. The context of that was that I knew the story about Darren in 2024, and I knew that he had pivoted and had a much better Strongsville in 2025 after he refound his backpack that he left in the restaurant with $10,000 in it. But that being
Whoa.
I am so happy that you put Darren's comment in your video today, because I think that, it's like anytime you make a mistake, you learn from the mistake and you move on. And there were people in your comments saying, essentially, if you bring a list, you're going to get angry and it's going to ruin the show for you. And I think that that's kind of short-sighted. Bring a list, use the list to guide you to the kinds of things you're looking for, but be open to other things. And, there's also two kinds of lists. You're talking about the list where it's like, these are my top 10 target cards for this show or this weekend or whatever. But I have to bring lists because I have a bunch of sets that I'm building. And so I gotta not repeat. I have to, and I've done it before. I've bought cards that I actually own already. Sometimes in the same grade. So you have to be smart. You have to bring a list for, my 1968 list, my 1972 list, my 52 Bowman list. All of those are lists that I have to bring. If I don't bring them, I'm committing, card collector malpractice. But so anyway, I'm glad you brought that jazz thing in, because I thought that was maybe one of my best moments last night.
It was a good analogy, and I love analogies. I will say, just to follow up on what you were just saying about Darren, the integrity of the wait staff and hostess staff at the Outback Steakhouse in Strongsville is high. Mike, is there any? They're the ones that found the bag. Mike, is there any thoughts you wanted to jump in with on this?
Yeah, I have three. I want to call out three comments. That's it right there. First of all, Tony's comment is, he's not bringing a list. He knows what he wants or needs. It's in my head. That's still a list, whether it's in your head or in a spreadsheet. Ziggy had a comment a while back that I wanted to highlight because it said it perfectly. He said, I don't know if you can get back to it because it was a while ago. No. It was about grocery store. Do you bring a list to a grocery store? I like unplanned snacks. And I have a list in a spreadsheet of hundreds and hundreds of cards that I need to complete sets. But when I see a card I never thought of, that's the one right there. It's like an unplanned snack. And I think, yeah, I want this card. So that's well said. Theo then said, Clemente Collector said, I'm trying to remember. I was trying to memorize these instead of listening to Dan. He said, can you go back to Theo? Come on.
Theo from Four Collectors?
No, not that one. No, get Four Collectors out of here. Yeah, he had a different. Yeah, yes, this is it. A list is a bad idea. You could buy a card that doesn't have your eye appeal standards, but you want to check it off. I would never just check off a card. Not interested in checking off my checklist.
But don't you think you could do that subconsciously? Don't you think you could say, man, at the National, the card I really want is the 1941 Play Ball Joe DiMaggio, and I found one, and this one is pretty good, and it's kind of my price range, but it doesn't blow you away. Don't you think a lot of us, not necessarily you, but don't you think a lot of people force it and go, all right, I got my card?
I think that some people do, but some people don't care about centering an eye appeal as much as others do. I hear it in my comments all the time.
It depends on the card, really.
Right. Somebody commented that centering was the least important thing to him. All he cares about is corners and edges, which blew my mind.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, I think that we do all have our own tastes, and so one person can see a card. But then the other thing is like Tony in Strongsville. I'm sitting there with Tony at a table, and he was looking for a 33 Gaudy Lou Gehrig, and there were three of them on the table, and two of them were centered really well, and one of them was like, I don't know, 80-20 centering. But you looked at the 80-20 one, and it just, the registration and the color just jumped off the card, and that card is way better than the other two, even though if you were looking at them from arm's length away, you would say, I think the other two might be better. But once you look at it next to the others, you realize how much better it is than the others. I just think that when we go in with a hard set goal, sometimes we force it. Now, I'm a guy who took 35 years to find my Ernie Banks. So I don't think that I fall into the category of people who force a card, but I think some of us do. And that's my only concern with a list for people is be very willing to pivot if something else steps in front of you. I guess that's all.
Can we go back to next Theo comment? Because I'm just mad at Theo for conning me into 2 Hobbypalooza videos. Yes, okay. So I'm just going to rephrase this a little bit. Having a list of cards you would love to own is part of collecting. It's not a list. Right?
Dramatic pause.
It's a list.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
Jeremy
you know-
Lee, who's in the chat, he commented on my video this morning, and he said, I have a list. It's in my head. And like you just said, that is a list, but is it the same? I mean, I know which sorts of things I like. There's 150 cards I want, but don't I want to go? I tried to use the example of like prioritizing things in the video today. I was trying to say, hey, listen, if you're so hung up on that girl across the lunchroom from you, you don't even notice all the other cute girls in the room because you're so obsessed with that one. And that can put blinders on. But that's the part that I worry about with a list is the blinders that go on to everything else out there. Jake, what do you think?
Well, like I literally I was reaching for the bag that I bring to shows so I could show like an actual list that I apparently had to cut off a part of to like this is all Yaz stuff. And like there's hundreds of Yaz things that I want to buy. And if I don't have a list, and speaks to what Dan was talking about, it applies to set building too, where it's like if you don't have a list, if you don't have access to this at a given moment when you're at a show, you might to me it's the embarrassing thing that Dan mentioned is that you might buy something that you already have and you get kind of bummed at yourself. You get home and you look at it and you look at the rest of your stuff and you're like, man, like even though it's probably only for something like this, it might only be $2 or $3. It's like, man, I could have spent that on something else. Now I got to find somebody else that wants this. So I think that I there's this like existential thing about collecting. I think that speaks to all of this, which is just that like, I think in all of our minds, we all have things that we like to collect. So whether it's a physical list or if it's a mental list, there are things that you want to. There's always going to be things that you want to collect to add to your specific collection that you want. The only like I can't think of many people, maybe a couple people that will collect anything that they will collect. It doesn't matter the era. It doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter the player. It doesn't matter if modern, ultra modern, vintage, whatever sport, whatever. I think of John Mangini's collection. I feel like John collects any sport and will collect any player from any era, that kind of thing. There's not a huge number of people that I know that collect like that. And so I just think that whether it's consciously, subconsciously, physically on a piece of paper or wherever, we all have what we like to collect in mind when we go to a show or we're trying to buy stuff. So there's always a list, but that doesn't mean you have to stick to it. And if you rigidly stick to it, that to me is the problem.
Okay, so there's a brilliant question that just showed up. Because when I ask these things, like when I ask it for a Monday video and I say, what do you guys think? I'm not asking rhetorically. I genuinely am looking for advice. I am a very open-minded collector. I am very open-minded to what I should do, what's a better strategy, changing. And I've changed a lot of opinions on a lot of things. When I really was getting back into cards a few years ago, I was still PSA only. And now I'm not that at all. And so, but this is such an important question, because when do you pivot? Because if you haven't even made it through the room yet, and the card is maybe out there, but you haven't even made it through the room, but at the third table you get to, there's like maybe your sixth or seventh target, and it is a gem and it is well priced. Do you pull the trigger on it on the third table of the show when you haven't even made it through the room yet and the number one target is there? So when is the right time to say, okay, this is the first purchase, this is changing the budget for the rest of the show, what I'm going to do right here? And that's what happened to me in Strongsville. Is I went through the room 5 times before I finally pulled the trigger and bought a T206 Christy Mathewson portrait card from Stan Locke. And as soon as that happened, my whole budget changed and my eyes went from this to this. And I walked over to another table and I said, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful Sandy Koufax rookie. I didn't even look at 55s at that point. And there it was standing in front of me. So it changed everything. So I know I'm going on and on. Mike, when do you pivot away from the top target? If you get to the third table at the show and your number 6 target is a great card at a great price, do you pull the trigger, or do you want to at least give every table a look, searching for your number 1 or 2 target?
Was I the only one who read William's comment as asking us when we were going to pivot to the next topic? Like, you guys are reading the same thing over and over again.
I don't think everyone else is anxious to move along with the conversation, Mike. I think that's a
Mike wants to go to sleep. Like, just call a spade a spade. Like, this is
I'm a little distracted. Theo is texting me, begging me not to hurt him anymore with my comments. So
So what do you think, though? If you're at the third table of the show at the National and your number 6 target shows up, do you buy it even if it takes you out of the monetary ability to hit your number 1 or 2 target?
Yeah, as long as it's within my budget. I'm strict with my budget. I don't go over. Yes, that's right.
I thought this was a family show.
I didn't type
It's after 9 p.m. It's MidLife after dark.
MidLife after dark.
Yeah, I would. I don't have a single target, though. I have hundreds of cards I'm going for. And if I end up with 5 of them, I'll be thrilled.
Now, Dan, what about you? Third table, number 6 target shows up, but if you buy it, your number 1 and 2 target are no longer possible. Do you do
let's
that?
talk about Strongsville. We'll talk about Strongsville. I mean, I had one target.
Real quick.
Right.
Strongsville and the National are very different animals, but let's talk about Strongsville.
I don't think they're as different animals for us, because I'm not even going to look at half the table, 3/4 of the tables in that room. I'm going from vintage guy to vintage guy. The only difference between that and Strongsville is that there's tables in between Stanlock and the next guy. So I had a target for Strongsville, and I found every version of this card in the room, and the card that I wanted, I found it, and I found it literally before the doors open to the public, which, yeah, all right, sorry. but I picked this up from Stan, and this is the this is the one. This was the one. And I should say, Greg, that I am debuting on your channel a new camera. This new camera is really good at seeing up close on cards. So there you go. So I bought that, and all of a sudden, I didn't have that much budget left. So I improvised, and I bought some little stuff here and there. But what saved me was the Saturday night for collectors vintage trade night, where I sold $2,000 worth of cards and then went in the next day and spent another 1,000. So if you follow 4 collectors, that's my 4th mention. So then you'll be fine.
Well, it's funny because as you were talking about how your new camera was fantastic, your connection got foggy.
It wasn't good.
So it looked like your camera was trash, but in reality,
hilarious. You're bragging about how great the camera is.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let me get you back out there.
All right, now
it's fuzzy. Oh, it's still kind of fuzzy.
It's not good.
Yeah,
really? Your internet is off.
I think it's
your internet
is bad. It's just bad timing.
Yeah, so that was just kind of an ironic thing.
You've got the 14.4 baud modem running there.
AOL
stealing my
online.
material. I made that joke this week. You're stealing my material. Come on.
All right, so this next question, I was expecting significantly different results than what you guys gave me. So my next thing was, what are you most excited for at the National? Now, there's a lot of stuff about the National that makes it fun, no doubt about it. And I did not expect another clean sweep. Now, I guess it's politically correct to say the people. Like, if you say the Cards, then it's like, well, this guy doesn't like people, whatever. But at the same time, I genuinely kind of thought that we might get a different answer because Mike and I have talked before about how we kind of sometimes like to do our own thing. So I just want to pull a clip from the first conversation I had with Mike.
Last year at the National, a couple of people were like, "Why did you leave us at the National? I thought we were walking around together." And I'm like, "We were? Why would I want to walk around with people? I want to go at my own pace. I get stressed if people think, or if I'm needing to walk at somebody else's pace, either they're too fast or too slow, or I'm too fast or too slow. I am very comfortable by myself. Ever since I was a kid, you could probably say, probably because he didn't have any friends. No, I don't know. I am very comfortable with my own company. And you're right. It's my nightmare being invited to a Airbnb with 10 other guys. That's I need a room to myself. Mm-hmm. It would be a blast to be invited to come over for dinner and hang out, but I would leave.
Now, first of all, let me say I agree with every single thing you said there, Mike. I those could have come from my exact words, but then at the end, I think that's what really summed it up is you like hanging out with card collectors. You like hanging out with your YouTube friends. It's that you like to do it for this amount of time. And then the rest of the time, like the Animal House, the frat house that some of these guys do, it does sound brutal to me. Dan's raising his hand. Go for it, Dan.
Well, let me just say this. Tony had a great comment that you should pull up, which is that the National is, yes, a card show, but it's also a social event. You're at the card show. Yeah, people aren't for walking the floor. People for after the show. So when I put people down, it's because I get to see people at the National that I don't see throughout the year. I get to go to Strongsville, the National, Shriners, a couple of Hofstra shows, the White Plains, and like 3 Philly shows. I get to a lot of shows a year. And so it's the people at the National that I don't get to see all the time. And so that's why I put people down. I'm going to see there that I've never seen before, but I see a lot of cards. So I think Mike is right. Walking the floor by yourself can be very liberating, but there are also times when I want to hang out on the floor with people who I can use their eye or just chat, So I think people is probably number one because of that.
So I'm reading Adam's comment. Clip him saying Mike is right and just play it in infinity. Please. I need that. I will fall asleep to that every night. Dan just saying Mike is right. Mike is right. Mike is right. Mike is right. So I stand by everything I said in that clip from that video. I love that video, by the way. We went deep into some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But, and that was the first time you and I had ever really talked, which is weird because I met you at the National. we had never talked. We had never commented on each other's videos. Really, I don't think.
Well,
We'd
you had never
talked.
commented on mine.
Oh, stop it. And then we talked for like 10 minutes at the National.
Yeah.
And then we got on that video right after the National, and you had me pegged. Like, it blew my mind how well you knew me. But I stand by everything I said on that, because if I'm walking around the National with other people, I feel stress about me going too fast or going too slow for them. And I go to card shows with my closest friend, Oliver.
An all-time comment from Mookie.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I go to card shows with my closest friend, Oliver, and we do not walk around together. I don't want to. I don't think he wants to either, because we have different things we're looking for. We're going at different paces. I like to go at a medium pace for any mid-90s Adam Sandler fans here. Greg is like, I can't believe he just said that.
Yeah, thanks for putting this up.
Am,
I need to defend the frat house when Mike is done.
No.
Yeah.
I said I'd love to go to the frat house and visit. I don't want to spend the night there. That is a nightmare. I love going into the YouTube get-together. That is my favorite part. I haven't been to anything else. This year I'm going to 2 other things, because I can go around, I can meet 100 people, I can do a meet and greet, and I love that. And I love people coming up to me in the National, introducing themselves, walking around, saying, hey, showing me what you have. Love that. I just don't want to walk around with people.
Now, let me do a quick follow-up to you, Mike, and then Dan, you're feeling the need to defend the frat house. But Mike, would you say that you are more excited about the people now than you were at the 2023 National? Like, how has your opinion on the excitement of the people part of it changed over the last couple of years as a result of just your connections and stuff?
These commenters are hilarious. Tony put up his comment about me being a cat guy. We'll avoid Jason. So 2022, I went to my first National for the cards. I didn't know anything about card community at that point in time. And I went to the YouTube get together because I just heard about it like a week or 2 before, and I loved it. And I was like, wow, I could go to that every single year. 2023, I went back for the YouTube get together, had a fantastic time. And then I said, okay, I'm going back every year for the YouTube get together. No, not personal security, but also don't rob me, because I will. But I go back now for the YouTube get together every year. Now I'm hoping that we'll have a great time at whatever other things Theo has committed me to. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. All right, Dan, frat house defense.
Okay. So the frat house, you get to show up at the house and hang out with a bunch of guys, all that you have the same things in common with. You get to drink some beer. What?
This is the one they laughed at.
CPAP.
Okay, there you go. There were CPAP machines. But look, I got to hang out with Adam, who told me all this stuff about my card, and I learned eye stuff, and I got to know the guy better. Eddie was in there. I got to talk to Eddie, got to know him better, hung out with Jason, Matt. I'm forgetting people. Dave. I met people and had great conversations, and then I go to bed and I wake up the next day and I'm at a card show. And then the same thing happens the next day, and I can have a few beers. And I'm leaving out the most entertaining character in the whole house, which was Chris from Missouri. Listening to Chris from Missouri tell his stories until 2 o'clock in the morning is, in fact, something I do want to experience. So I we had 2 bathrooms, we had laundry, we had plenty of beds. The place didn't smell. It was fantastic. It was one of the best experiences of my later adult life. It reminded me back of being in college, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we were at a card show.
Now, Jake, let me ask you this, because your channel is newer than, say, Mike's, and so attending this National is going to be much different than the White Plains shows or the Philly shows or things that you've attended. What are you expecting? I mean, like, we've never met in person, what are you expecting as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that I would be going to the National if it wasn't for like starting a YouTube channel and meeting people. I feel like I would, I there are enough shows in the Northeast that are the sort of bigger ones that Dan mentioned that I don't know that I would feel the need to go to the national, but I feel like getting to meet people and getting to experience that together with other folks from YouTube that I've met online or I have met in person, is like ultimately the biggest reason why. And it's just because everybody's going to be there. So, to me, like what am I expecting? Like, yeah, I definitely, the cards are important to me, like that. I want to be able to buy some cool stuff, but you can buy cool stuff, in a lot of different circumstances. It doesn't have to be at the national, but getting to be there with all these people and getting to meet them, really excited to go to the YouTube get together. I'm not going to be around for I'm kind of really only there for the first, day. I'm only really going to be there for the actual show Wednesday, Thursday, and part of Friday. I'm not going to be around after that. But I'm just really to get kind of personal for a minute. Like there was definitely a possibility that I was not going to be able to go to this national because I had, a really major surgery just over 4 weeks ago. And the good news is that I'm feeling great. And I'm trying to have a moment here.
No, I'm not laughing at you.
No, I know. But like, I just was afraid I wasn't going to be able to go. And that was going to be a bummer. Like I missed the Philly show last year too, because I was in much worse shape last September. And like going to shows and getting to go to the big shows has been kind of a marker for me, like a great thing. Shriners, where I first met both Mike and Dan last year, was kind of the goal for me after I had my first surgery last fall. And that was amazing. And that was the Shriners last year was my favorite experience I've had in the hobby, because there were so many of us there, and it was awesome. And so I'm looking forward to that on an even bigger scale this time. And so the people is really what it's all about for me.
Yeah, I mean, well said. And I know you've been through a lot, and I've been through some similar stuff, as as we've talked about. And at some point, maybe once everything's in the past, maybe you and I could talk about it with some people about what we've been through. But really appreciate the generosity. That will buy more than a coffee. Thank you. Let's go, Jordan, very much.
Mike's budget.
A question I was really interested in is the next one that I want to share. And
sorry, just for a second, go back up to Eric Young's comment from a minute ago. Because he had a really, second national, first time going more than a day. Here's a good opportunity to say to people, I don't believe Eric has a channel. Anybody is invited to the YouTube get together at the Embassy Suites across from the national. Yeah. Commenters, viewers, doesn't matter. You don't have to have a channel. Please come to the YouTube get together. It is run by, I think, Mike Moynihan again, still this year. Yeah,
I think so.
It's a great outing, great event. I think we had like 300 people there last year, and he's expecting more this year. Strong recommend for anybody. Sorry.
When you're at the national, it's such a big event that it's hard to find people. And some of us are coming from a ways away. I mean, my buddy Carl from Australia, who was at Strongsville, he's coming to the national. And, it's like when he showed up at Strongsville, he's like, am I going to be able to see you and have a drink or something? I'm like, yeah, dude, like you'll see me across the room. But the national's not that way. So it's a place where if there are some people that you want to see face to face, it is probably it is the best opportunity to do that. Which is a really cool opportunity. 189 of you in the chat. You got 192 now. You guys are absolutely killing it, making this a lot of fun. Back to the question that I was getting at. I asked each of these three guys which YouTuber they were most excited to interact with. Now, keep in mind, I make YouTube content, but none of them picked me. I'm okay with that. It's fine. But I did want to hear you guys guess who each other put. So, Dan, who do you think Mike put as the YouTuber he's most excited to interact with at the national? Dan, hold on.
I have no recollection of this. I'm like George Costanza dressing based on mood. This could change at any moment.
Listen, being an advanced age like Dan, we've all been there. It's something that happens more progressively as we move forward. Dan, who do you
You're
think
really mad I didn't put you down, Greg.
Who do you think he put?
Mike Petty.
Ooh, that's a great choice.
That's a
Jake,
really good one.
what do you think?
I'm gonna say Orlando.
And the winner is Mookie Chilson.
Oh, that's right. I remember why I did
who's
this.
not even planning on being there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he's going, right?
Well, that's why I did it. Greg said he wanted us to guilt Mookie into going, and so I put Mookie Chilson in here because I thought I was being funny at the time. But now I really like when you put this up here. I thought I must have said Orlando, but then Dan said Mike Petty, and I thought, oh man, I bet I said Mike Petty. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great choices, no doubt about it. And it is fun though. I mean, because listen, for me, I've met a lot of people, so I would immediately start to think of, well, who have I not met? Like Jake, I've not seen in person, so I'm excited to see Jake. Dan, I've seen several times, so I'm still looking forward to hanging out with you, Dan, but it's just different because we've hung out before. So that was Mike. So let's go over to Dan. So we'll start with you, Mike. Who do you think? Go ahead.
Last year, he very publicly stated that the two people he wanted to meet the most were Mangini and me. And we had a chance to meet, regrettably.
What a mistake. The Mangini part was right.
Boy, that is a good question. Tonic. I think you've met Mike Petty. He would be such a great one. It's got to be Orlando.
Okay, Jake.
That's the thing is and I guess I forgot that the question was who are you most excited to interact with, and not necessarily like who you're excited to meet for the first time. But I'm not even sure if he's going, but based on what Dan said, I'm going to say Chris from Missouri.
It's a good choice. I couldn't pass up Rob's comment. I met Mookie. I'm impressed.
I met Mookie, and I was extremely impressed with Mookie.
I was extremely impressed
too. Mookie's the kind of guy I would be friends with in real life if he lived close by.
100%.
Yeah,
he's the kind of guy you would want to be friends with, Mike. I'm not sure he would be friends with you.
True, very true.
Good dig.
It was Tony Southern Collector, which so far, you guys have mentioned two of my favorites, so I'm absolutely on board. I can't say anything bad about those choices. And then Chris from Missouri, who Mike Petty calls Yogi, is not scheduled to attend as of now. If that changes, Chris, let us know. But last we interacted a couple of days ago, it was not the plan. So let's go now to Jake. So Jake, Jake has not been to a national. He has not been to Strongsville. So there are probably more people that he maybe hasn't had a chance to interact with in person.
Yeah, this was tough. This was tough for me.
What do you think, Dan?
It's tough. I mean, I feel like Orlando is the obvious answer because that's what Jake keeps saying, and everybody should want to see Orlando. But my guess is John Mangini. That's my guess.
It's a great guess. Mike, your guess.
Chris Sewell.
Oh, it's a good guess too. Now, before we reveal it, Doug, sports collector, greatly appreciate that. Very generous of you. Thank you kindly. If I had to pick someone, I think I'm picking Jake's Orlando, a collector's dream. I mean,
you got it right.
Listen, Orlando, everybody loves Orlando. If you don't like Orlando, you need to have your head checked. But then with everything that Orlando's been through, and he recently had his first walk video again where he did his walk and talk. He looks great. He sounds great. I actually have a scheduled conversation with him here coming up later in the week, which will be airing soon. So, I mean, Orlando is a great guy. and you cannot go wrong with saying Orlando every time, even if you've met him before. So very much looking forward to that, Orlando. John says, if you don't like Orlando, I don't want to interact with you. Well said. So I mean, I think that for me, there are a lot of people that I've not yet met, but I have met a lot of people, and it makes it one of these things where you're kind of, what is the right choice? Well, there isn't one. I think that, the key is the beauty of the National and the beauty of Strongsville is the fact that a lot of us are able to get together, and a lot of us are able to hang out and put a face with the name and the voice and the personality. And, it's funny because, a lot of people, we feel like we know each other. Like I feel like I know Mike before I have Mike say Greg, because he hears my voice. Like we know each other, but we don't know each other. And then you get to go, well, is this person who I think they are, which is interesting. I think it's an extremely interesting experience. Now, taking a step back to last year, I wanted to take a look at our favorite pickups from the 2024 National. And at that one, in fact, I think you just
I'm
talked
gonna go get a
about
drink
it.
of water.
Yeah, of course. Jeremy, on Jeremy's channel a couple of days ago, Mike shared this purchase. We're going to look in just a moment at the oh, you were joking, Jake, because you weren't there. Got it.
Yeah. You asked this question about
what
was your favorite.
go get. I was like,
what was
go
your
get
favorite
water.
purchase at the National 2024? I think you also said maybe Strongsville too, or something. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
Great card.
Beautiful. I mean, that's a beautiful card. We're going to look at your guys' pickups from this upcoming year. Now, as we're looking at them, Mike, let me ask you this. Do you want to pick up a big card so it's like your 2025 National card? Is that like a thing, or does that not impact you at all in your decision making? It's like, if it's the card, it's the card. Or do you have an extra motivation to land a memorable card because it's a bigger show?
Good question. I would love to pick up a great looking card, but it would have to fit my budget. It would have to fit what I'm looking for. It would have to be on my list. Now, it wouldn't really have to be on my list. But I don't go to the show saying I need to buy a $1,000 card. That's just not something that I think of. I have a very specific budget, and if I see a card that I want and it fits in my budget, I buy it.
Yeah. But at the same time, it is kind of cool to be like, well, I got this card here, but I guess we could do that at a local show too. What about you, Dan, as we're looking at your pickup, which is a 47 Bond Bred Bob Feller, the one with it's got the clip corners. Why does this card stand out to you? And do you feel, because you picked up a couple other pretty big cards.
Yeah.
Why does
I got this guy, but it's a 1. I settled. I did some own appeal before I even had coined the term, and I got this guy also. But I don't know. I feel like that feller. You can go back to 4. Yeah, that feller was a card that I went in not even knowing that I wanted it. It was from Ash. I walked around the space a long time. I spent a lot of time trying to think of why I shouldn't buy it, and I couldn't convince myself not to buy it. It's a 7. It's the highest graded example of this card. And, I collect Feller, and I almost never see this card. I don't know the last time that I saw it before that. So, I mean, I felt like it was all the things that the National should be, which is finding a card you never see, buying it from a dealer you like, taking your time doing it, and having it be like a gem in your collection. So, maybe it wasn't the most expensive card that I bought, but it was the one that I think was the most meaningful.
Yeah, I totally get that. These cards just sometimes show up. I was at a local card show, and there was a 47 Bond Bred Barra. I was with Petty, actually. He came up to it, and we're just like, what is that doing here? And then Darren at Strongsville, he got a Bond Bred DiMaggio, and we were just like walking along. I'm like, dude, did you see this? And he like just bought it on the spot. It's interesting how, I mean, the population on these cards is quite low. but then all of a sudden one will show up. And I think that's kind of the needle in the haystack thing. You know, you just never know, which it makes it the treasure hunt. And then Jake with the whammy. I
would have pressed my luck this year.
But we're excited. I'm really excited to hang out, man. Like, you know, it's going to be fun, and you know, just don't try to walk arm in arm with Mike, because he'll, you know, he doesn't have any interest in doing that. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I happen to luck into my banks making that like a big car. I mean, I've kind of been fortunate that at the bigger shows I've been at the last couple of years, I have walked away with a pretty memorable card. I mean, I got my 48 leaf spawn, 49 leaf spawn at the Strongsville show the year before. This year, I got a couple of pretty nice cards. And so, you know, but I'm still not going to force it. And you would think at a show like the National that, of course, you're going to fall into some really big cards that are, you know, ready to bust your budget. Like, you would think that would happen, but I just think it's important not to force it. Like we continue to say, be patient as collectors. Be patient. Don't force things. And even at the National, you get excited. You've got your big budget, and you got all this adrenaline going. It doesn't mean that the card is going to be there. You can't force it still. Now, kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about here, I think, is this question. Which would you prefer? 20 small pickups, 5 medium pickups, or 1 big pickup? And this, to me, is a question that I will continue to ask. I'll continue to talk about, and I will continue to kind of, I think, have a change in my feelings as what I think, because there are times that I feel like it's all about the premium cards and having a smaller elite collection. And then there are other times I'm like, but there's all this other stuff that I want, you know? And I was listening to Rick's Vintage Oddball Cards. He was in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. And he was with Mangini, I think, on a video. And he was talking about how he's been filling in some binder stuff, and how at the National this year, he's thinking about filling in some binder stuff. I think part of that is because he bought a pretty big card recently. But there are times where I see myself leaning toward the 20 small pickups. And then there are times like, oh, no, I really want to land the big card. And so I wasn't really sure what to expect from you guys here, but this is how it came out. Now, Dan, being the outlier on this, the 20 small pickups as opposed to the 5 medium pickups or the 1 big pickup, is that just kind of a microcosm of the type of collector you see yourself as, which is a large collection, a broad collection? Or what's the reasoning that you say that?
Well, you know, there was somebody in the comments before, I don't remember who it was, said that they were going to engage in a scavenger hunt at the National. And to me, that's kind of what I envisioned my experience as last year. And yes, I did land some big cards, but I didn't land some cards that, you know, other people bought. I didn't buy a Gowdy Gehrig or anything like that. But, you know, I did find a bunch of stuff that I never see anywhere else. So there's a lot of $50 cards, $100 cards, $150 cards. There's a lot of that kind of stuff out there that to me presents an attractive opportunity to buy things that I won't see anywhere else. And, you know, like I said before, I go to a lot of card shows every year, but, you know, there's some times at the National where I'll just run across, you know, tip-top 1947 tip-top bread of a guy who was on the 48 Braves, and it's $10. And I know that if I tried to buy that on eBay, it would be $50. So I'm going to buy that. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And there was a lot of that. I mean, I bought the, this is another one that I got, which was the 39 play ball Bill Dickey, which I spent some time looking for. I had a chance to buy a 7, but this 5 was really nicely centered and a really nice example, even though it's an old slab, it's graded correctly. And so I felt like
crystal clear, by the way, with the camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, you finally hit it with the internet and the picture working in tandem.
Well, let's enjoy it a little more then.
So good. It looks so good. It's almost like an AI generated photo.
Yeah, I don't actually own the card. It's an AI photo. Yeah, so that was like, that was my thinking, was that it was going to be kind of like somebody said in the chat, the scavenger hunt. There's going to be a lot of things that I see. And, that sort of plays into lone wolfing it on the floor. I'm going to be going through, I'm going to go through dollar boxes. I'm going to go through $10 boxes. I'm going to go through different stuff. Bill Chappell will have boxes filled with 55 double headers that I need for my set. So there's going to be a lot of that also. And am I going to land a big card? Probably. Am I going to land a 3 comma cards? Probably. But, to me, it's more about the experience of all the other stuff.
Sure. Now, Jake, what about Orlando's comment here? He says, I'd rather buy my big cards at the National in person and save money, taxes versus an auction purchase. I mean, is that something you guys on the East Coast, the Northeast especially, you have more opportunities to access fairly big shows with lots of the vintage dealers, but someone like Orlando, who's way down Southeast, or someone like me, who's way on the West Coast, we don't have opportunities to this kind of inventory very often. And it's kind of tough to drop $3,000 or something on a card that is, a picture. You don't even get to see it in person. And so this is a rare opportunity. Is this something that resonates with you, Jake?
It definitely does. And I feel the same way. And, everything is relative, right? Like my medium card is someone else's big card, or it's someone else's 20 small cards, right? So it all kind of it all evens out depending on kind of who you like, what end of the pool you're swimming in, I guess. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I said, and we're just talking specifically about the National, like for me, I think it's this opportunity to hopefully be exposed to a lot of different dealers and cards that, like, you're right, Greg, that like we're very lucky in the Northeast where a lot of these dealers set up at shows that are reasonable to get to multiple times a year. But the National is like everyone's there in one place. And I think that for me, it's going to be a great opportunity to pick off a lot of different individual things that I care about. And then the reason why I didn't say the 20 small things is because right now I'm not really working on any sets. Now, like I'm building a Yaz PC. I showed the list before. There's a lot of little items on that. I would be happy with picking up 20 smaller like Yaz things that are harder to come by. But other than that, for me, what I'm going for is I'd like to spread things around and get cards in that sort of whatever we would consider that middle ground. I do know that there would be an opportunity if I wanted to spend a huge portion of my budget on one card, on like one like bigger comma card. And yeah, I think like being in person, I know this is something that's come up a bit recently. I think there's so much value with those bigger cards. Like for me, like it would be any card that's like a comma card, like over $1,000. I think maybe only since I got back into this, I think I've only bought like what I would call like an expensive card through an auction, not seeing it in person once. And I was really happy with it, and I was happy with how it turned out. But to me, if I'm going to spend like big money on a card, like I completely agree with what Orlando's saying. I want to see it in person. I want to make that decision in person. I want to see how it feels in my hand, how it looks to me. Before I decide to pull the trigger on it. But everybody kind of has their own opinion on that, and I respect it.
For sure. And I know, we give Mike grief about being past his bedtime because he is an early riser and an early bed guy. So I want to be respectful of his time, and I appreciate him hanging in there, being on the East Coast. It's easy for me to say it's 7:18 for me, and I don't work tomorrow. But I do want to wrap this up. There was one last thing that I feel like I was going to go to you, Mike, first. Look,
just want to make sure I get my chance.
All right.
Yeah, he didn't answer the question about that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Eyes.
So I think, it's interesting. Ziggy and I very, very often disagree, but he has nailed it with his comments tonight. Things I've agreed with almost. Yeah. Thank you. Almost everything he said comments. You just highlighted his comment there about being a quantity guy. If you could bring that back up again, I think this nails it for me as well. I'd rather go to 5 concerts and sit in regular seats than one concert up front. Same here. Like I would rather have a PSA 1.5 than a PSA 8 because then I can buy more cards. And I'm not at a point with my collection yet where I am ready to buy a $5,000 card. The most I've ever spent was $1,100 on that Ted Williams. So I am more of a. I'll probably buy 5 medium cards and then a bunch of small cards if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand both perspectives, but again, I think part of that might be my access to shows like this makes me lean toward the bigger card because I don't have that opportunity as often. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't bought a lot recently, and part of it is because this is one of my rare opportunities to have access to some of this stuff. The top 2 targets. Now, this was such an interesting response that you guys had, because I really feel like it tells the story of how each of you collect. Each of you collect fairly differently, and nowhere is that more evident than it is with how you each responded here. So Mike said the 53 tops Mickey Mantle, the 54 tops Hank Aaron, 2 of the biggest names from the golden era, epic, iconic cards. Let me ask you to narrow it down. If you only could land one of those, Mike, which one would you prefer?
Well, first of all, I want to say the chances of me landing either of these, let alone both of them, are very slim. The budget just probably isn't there unless I find one pretty early on that's really nicely priced. But if I had to choose, I would choose the Mantle. I just shipped out my last Mantle in the mail. The giveaway from 10 days ago or so. Finally heard from him, got his address. I shipped it out today. So now I have no Mantle in my collection. And the only Mantle I want for my collection is this one. 53 tops. Well, I would love to have the 52 or the 51 Bowman, or even the 52 Bowman. But I'll take the 53 tops. This can be had in an SGC1 for like $1,500.
Would you be happy with of course it's depending, but do you think that the chances of finding one in a one that meets your specifications is realistic?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of ones that are, look, I've got a Mookie special right here, 1.5 with pinhole. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
My camera's not as good as Dan's. My Ted Williams is an authentic because I don't have it on me, sorry. My Ted Williams 49 leaf is authentic because the back is torn off. It's got a lot of paper loss. I love it.
Yeah. I think they're both fantastic choices. I think that, the Aaron, it's not just his rookie card. It's also probably his best looking card. And Mantle, sure, it's his 3rd year card, but you could definitely make the argument that that's his best looking card. So I totally get it. Mookie likes your Chrissy Mathewson. Now let's turn our attention to Dan. Again, I think that sums up how Mike collects. He likes vintage cards. He likes iconic cards. He likes recognizable cards. And then Dan's is slightly different. He's got the 49 Bowman Dobie, and he's got a 1915 Crackerjack Hank Gowdy. So tell me about the Crackerjack card. Why is that a card that you're after? Because a lot of people would probably go, oh yeah, I know the Dobie card, but less people would recognize the Crackerjack card. So tell us why that's high on your list.
Well, I'm collecting all of the champion Braves in the Crackerjack set, and I'm down to one, and Hank Gowdy is the last one. And when I get that card, I will have a complete set of Crackerjack Braves team members. And so it's kind of a big deal for me. I've been collecting 14 Braves now for a long time. And this would be sort of like I've reached a pinnacle of their cards. And, it's one of those things that it's going to be very satisfying. With the Dobie, I'm not targeting it at the National anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I bought one.
Dot.
Bang.
Ash
Exciting.
On Facebook, Ash puts up pictures of his cases when he's going to a big show, and he was at the Dallas show this weekend, and I'm going through his cases, and all of a sudden that card pops up in an SGC 3, and he's got 1,300 on it, which is literally the comp. And so I text him. I didn't text him. I think I messaged him. And I said, I'm interested in this card. He sends me a couple photos, and he says, what are you going to do? What do you want to do on it? I said, 1,200. He said, fine. Boom. Done. Paid him Venmo.
Great deal, Dan.
Shipped out today. I actually got the notification when Legacy Cards sends you a notification when they ship it out. So I'm not going after the 49 Dobie anymore. That was one of my targets at Strongsville, and there were only 2 in the room. One was like a 1.5, and it wasn't great, and the guy would, his number was a little high. And the other one was the dealer. I don't know his name, but he's the guy that did the coin flip with Moynihan in 24 on the Jackie Robinson. It was a famous piece of video that Mike had. And it was that dealer. Good guy, definitely good guy, but he was a little high. He had like a 2.5, and it was 13 or 12.50 or something like that. So I actually feel like I did better in the long run by not being successful at Strongsville. So new target is probably either the 49 Williams Leaf card, 49 Bowman Jackie Robinson, or sorry, Mike, 53 Mantle, Topps Mantle. So a lot of different choices.
Steve Wilkes, the name you're looking for. Petty brought that up.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's him. Good guy, but we couldn't come to an agreement.
Yeah, he had a card that I'm kicking myself I didn't buy. I went back to buy it and it was gone. And but
yeah, I should say somebody actually ended up buying that Dobie on the 3rd day, I think, of Strongsville, maybe on the Saturday. And yeah, Bill Chappell is a great guy. Chappell is one of those guys that I will spend probably 2 hours at his booth just going through all his boxes. And if he's got something in his display case, I'll take a look at it that I'm interested in. He's a terrific guy too. We hung out at after the For Collectors Vintage Trade Night. That's my 5th mention. And Bill just sat around a table telling stories, and it was absolutely hilarious. Different dealer stories.
I can't fathom having time to go through bargain boxes or any sort of boxes. There's too many tables.
Yeah, I mean, but when you go through stacks at Chappell's table, the 5th card down is a Walter Johnson. It's not like a bargain box like at the local card show. It's insane.
Yeah, Bill's got an entire case filled with stuff that you don't normally see. It's like
Bill Chappell is probably the dealer that I actually have never been to a show where he set up. Like I think when I get in the door, I'm going to try to find his table like the first place I go.
Well, there is an interactive map on the website.
Yes.
So you could find Chappell in typing in CHAP and he comes up.
Yeah.
All right. And again, kind of showing how we collect differently. Jake's got a couple of beautiful targets as well. One of which is from one of my favorite sets of all time, the N28 Allen and Ginter set. So, both pre-war, both, rarer type sets to find. What is it about I know that you're a Boston fan, but tell us about why these 2 cards are high on your list, Jake.
Well, someone kind of stole a joke that I had before about, that Hank Gowdy was, one of Dan's favorite players growing up. I mean, a part of why I wanted to collect these is because I know Dan has childhood memories of watching both of these guys play.
Tavis, great.
But in all seriousness, so I will say this, the John Clarkson is a bit of an ephemeral target, and whereas the Collins is a little bit more of a direct target. So I don't have any cards from any baseball cards from the 1800s in my collection. So definitely a big overarching goal for me for the National is to come away with a meaningful 1800s card for my collection. I have the Clarkson is one that's you're holding up a Jack
Old-
Glasscock, I believe, there, right?
That is correct. I got I actually have another
Yeah.
Old Judge, but it's not like a really good thing. But this was, I picked that up in Strongsville, and that's like my best 18th century card. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
19th century, I think. They didn't make baseball cards in the 18th. They didn't make baseball cards in the 18th century.
How do you know? I was there.
Yeah,
I know.
You and George, you
Did
were
they have
crossing
paper
the
then?
crossing the Delaware with a wax pack. So the Clarkson to me is such an awesome card because again, you see there he played for the Boston Beaneaters. He also played for the professional team in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is a town that I used to live in, and he's in the Hall of Fame. He is obviously wearing the Boston shirt, and it's more reasonable price point than the King Kelly, which is a card I really want at some point from that set too. But the Clarkson is something that and I've seen them, they've come up on eBay recently, a few of them, and they're in auctions. It's not an impossible card to get, I don't think. So I'm just hoping to get the right version of it. The Ramley Collins is going to be much tougher. I believe only 2 of that card have come up for sale in the last 2 years. And again, the reason why I want that is because Jimmy Collins was the first Red Sox star. Now he's obviously not with the Red Sox in this card because he really only has 2 Red Sox cards. One is the Bryce Williams, which good luck, and then the other is a Fan Craze, which similarly good luck. So probably good luck for me on this one too. But I don't have a Ramley card, and so what you're talking about, Greg. Like I try to fill in pieces of my collection of things that from different eras and different sets. And it's like, I kind of decided that the Jimmy Collins kills 2 birds with 1 stone, where it's like, it's a great Boston player. I'd get a card from a set I really want. But, it's a moving target for me too. Like, again, as far as like I said, with the Clarkson, if it's not the Clarkson, I hope I come away with a different card from the 1800s. I have a whole bunch of lists. There's Boston guys in the N300, the Mayo's Cut plug set that I would be interested in. And, a few others, but it's a moving target for me. I'll show a card that I picked up recently, a raw one that is this is the E90-1 of Jack Barry for the A's. So I love this card. I love the obviously the backs are amazing on these. I'm going to probably get this graded by SGC at some point. It's missing the top, so it's going to not have the it's going to just get authentic. But I have Jack Barry. And I already have Frank Baker, Home Run Baker, and I have Eddie Collins. So Dan, what do I still need?
Stuffy
McInnes. I need the Stuffy McInnes to finish the $100,000 infield. So that will be a target of mine at the National too. And I just figure these old pre-war cards, if I'm going to go to a show now, if I don't get either of those cards that I showed or the Stuffy McInnes or whatever, it's okay. I know there's not a ton of dealers that have the old pre-war stuff, but I know the dealers that are going to be there, and I know a lot of them do have inventory from those years. So I look forward to having the opportunity to hopefully come across them at the show.
Can I just say one brief thing?
Mm-hmm.
If there's any place in the world where you're going to find those 2 cards together in the same room, it's the National.
It's interesting though, because
rooms.
the hunt that Jake is going to be on is going to be different than the hunt that Mike will be on. Jake will be hoping that there's 1 or 2 of each of these in the room. Mike, his 2 targets, there's going to be between 50 and 100 of them in the room. It's whether he can find the right one at the right price and with the right flaws that work for him. And so it's like a completely different treasure hunt that Mike will be on than that Jake will be on. The thing about it, to me, it feels like the thing about Jake's is if he sees it, he can't walk away. If he sees one of those, if he doesn't buy it right there on the spot, you can assume it's going to be gone. If Mike goes and finds a card that of one of his 2 targets and I should have gone back and got that when he goes back, it's not the end of the world because he's probably going to find something similar in the room or at least in the next few months. So it's such a different sort of dynamic when you're searching for things, but it's an equal treasure hunt. It's just a different type of treasure hunt. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, with a slight disagreement, that it's hard for me to find a 53 tops mantle in the right condition at the right price that I'm looking for. There are thousands and thousands of 53 tops mantles out there, but not very many of them are the right ones for me. Same thing with the 49 Leaf Ted Williams. It took me a long time. I wait a long time before I pull the trigger on a expensive card. Has to be the right copy.
And isn't it interesting that your right copy, and I know I'll let Dan take over from here, but isn't it interesting that Dan's right copy might be different than yours? I mean, we could look at a stack of, Christy Mathewson T206 dark caps, and you might pull out one that is your favorite, and mine might be a completely different one. And I find that so interesting that it's not like, that's what makes this fun, is that there isn't a universal this is better. There is a what is better for me. So, and I know Dan's been talking about that whole concept recently. Isn't that what's fun, is that I can go to a table and see 5 cards, and your own appeal is better than my own appeal, Dan? I mean, isn't that part of the fun of the whole thing? Because and then we go, why did he pick that one? That wasn't the best one. And that guy, why did he do that for? But to me, that's the fun part. Is it the fun part for you too, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is budget-based, taste-based. I mean, I don't want to blow my budget on you can buy a $10,000 Common from 1969. That's a 10. You can spend money. If you have all the money in the world, you can spend money, but you have to put it in the right places. And you call me a broad collector. I'm not so sure that's correct, but I just have a big collection. But you're there to buy the right card at the right price at the right time. And Jeremy Lee hours ago had a comment about he could wait 30 years for the right copy. I don't have 30 years left. Let's be clear here. I mean,
this thing just got dark.
Maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I do. Yeah. My father lived to 91, so that would put me 30 years. I'd have exactly 30 years left. So on my deathbed, I will find the perfect copy.
Petty nailed the joke. Yeah, I thought Dan was going there, but he didn't.
Yeah, no. Greg and I did one of my favorite episodes of my entire channel, which was the narrow versus broad collecting thing, which put me on the map. And thank you, Greg, for that, because I think I got about 100 new subscribers as a result of that. Anyway, what I was saying, though, is that ultimately it really is the circumstance. So will Mike and I be fighting over the same mantle? Probably not. But in reality, we could. I may see an example that really does it for me. And if it's 1,500 or 1,800, now I have money to spend on a different card. But we'll see. I feel like in reality, it's probably going to be different, but who knows? I trust Mike's eye, and you can save that little bit of video also.
Please do.
And Mike, honestly, I think this is a really interesting point. Like, there are absolutely people who are all about scarcity, and then there are people, like you're saying for yourself, that don't care about scarcity at all. I mean, if I remember being at the 2024 Strongsville show, and I was over sitting off, taking a little break, sitting on a bench, and Dave Blue Jacket came over and he sat next to me, and I showed him my Leaf Spawn that I had bought, and he goes, this is great. He's all, this is a nice card. He goes, but there's one, and I don't remember if it was a Bond Bread. There was some one. There was some Tip Top. It was a Tip Top 47 Tip Top Spawn. He goes, that's the Spawn in the room. And I go, and he wasn't sliding the card that I bought. He was just saying for his collection, it was all about the scarce one. It was not about the one that I like the looks of and that I had been hunting. And for other people like yourself, that just isn't interesting. And I find that interesting, that some people are wired one way and some people are wired a completely different. And, Dylan says all the time, and Dylan was in the chat earlier. I hope he's still there, but he's like, Topps cards aren't rare. What's rare is finding a centered Topps card. That's what makes it rare. But he also says, I'm a Topps card collector. And I know he has some Bowmans, but he's mostly a Topps card collector. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you can find different levels of what's rare. Maybe it's not rare to find a 49 leaf Spawn, but maybe it is rare to find a centered one that doesn't have print marks all over his face. So it's just different types. And again, to me, that's the fun part. Jake, you haven't talked in a minute. What's going on in your head?
The scarce thing, like for me, it's like I will collect stuff that happens to be scarce. It's not the purpose of what, like, I feel like, again, a T204 Ramley Jimmy Collins is a scarce card, but I don't want to collect it because it is scarce. I want to collect it because it fits a specific hole in my collection. So, and it's the same thing with an N28 Allen and Ginter card that is, 100 and 30, 140, whatever years old. That to me is it's the fact that it's rare, the fact that it's like, I don't even know what the population is on some of those cards. I think for the Allen Ginters, it's maybe somewhere in the 100s or 200s or somewhere in there. I don't care about that. What I care about is get me the thing that's going to fit a hole in my collection. And maybe because it's a little bit scarce, it's going to cost me a little bit more money. But to me, it's more about filling the need for my collection more than anything else.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's really well said. And, what tickles each person's fancy is what they should go after. And one person's treasure is not necessarily mine. I have certain cards that I want, and I can find my own ways to find it to be rare, whether it's rare to look good in this grade that I can afford. And that's the thing when you see some of these bigger channels, especially some of the modern channels, is they'll talk about, man, vintage cards aren't rare at all. This out of 25 card, that's rare. There's only 25 of them. And I respect what they're doing, and I respect where they're at and what they're collecting. But there aren't necessarily a lot of copies that look good of some of these old cards. So sometimes the treasure hunt is a centered one, or one without a crease, or one without paper loss, or whatever it is. But I don't know. Again, scarcity is whatever it is to that person. And I don't know. You got somebody agreeing with you. Oh, you got John totally agrees. All right. We've been going an hour and 42 minutes. It's well past Mike's bedtime. We have 150 still in the chat. We were getting close to 200. I don't think we ever quite hit 200, but we were in the 190s for sure. I appreciate all of you out there. That said, let's go around the horn one more time with any last thoughts that we have. If you haven't watched Mike's video from today, a lot of other people have. Check it out about the eBay potential changes. Let's start with Mike. Last thoughts.
Right. It is way past my bedtime, but it was also way past my bedtime when we started. So it's all relative.
Well, I appreciate
and I need to be up. I need to be up because I need to go into the office tomorrow, which, yeah. I want to thank all the commenters. This was awesome. This was a blast. And you guys too, I guess, but mostly the commenters who were awesome. For anybody wondering, which is probably nobody, my cat seems to be okay. My wife sat down here with him for like an hour, and now he's sleeping while his tail wags. So I think we're good. We'll see.
Good. Happy to hear that. Dan, your last thoughts?
I'm really looking forward to the National. It's going to be a great experience. Again, remember Thursday night, Moynihan's get together. Friday night is the Ash dinner, which we're all going to. And then Saturday night, the 4 collectors vintage trade night. That's my 6th mention. I'm still 4 short. But no, in reality, it's just going to be a whole bunch of fun to hang out with a bunch of people that I have a lot in common with and who I have great admiration for and enjoy talking to and joking around with. And there's people, all of them are in the chat, and obviously you three guys are important to me, and I really am looking forward to hanging out.
Jake, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to echo, like, thanks to everybody for being on the stream and being active with the comments. It's awesome. I feel honored and to be, included in these kinds of conversations with some, it's not even really just about YouTube. It's just people and three other guys that I really respect. And it's funny, like, I feel like some of the answers that we gave were similar, like early on, like talking about that, because I think we all I think the reason why we get along is because I think we think similarly on a lot of things. Not everything, obviously, clearly, and it wouldn't be fun if we all agreed on everything. But I'm excited, for I don't know what Dan's just doing a dance now. Whatever. I'm just like I mentioned before, I've had some bumps in the road in the last year, and being at the National, being with everybody is going to be kind of a big moment for me personally. And my wife Abby, she's going to be there as well. So it's going to be a great experience for both of us to get to be really in with the rest of the community. And I'm so excited and so looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the four of us being in the same room for the first time. That's going to be really awesome.
100%. 100%. Well, I will say this as my parting thoughts. For the channel, I don't ask people to like. I don't ask people to subscribe. I don't even ask people to watch. I just hope that you do. If it's worth your time, I hope you'll do each of those things. But if you don't, that's okay. But I do ask that people show up for these live streams, because when people show up, it is genuinely a lot more fun. And so to have as many people show up on a Monday night, especially late for you East Coast guys, it means a lot to me. It's the biggest compliment you can give me, is to attend a live stream with me. And it's a bigger compliment to me for you guys to be willing to be on camera with me. So thank you to you three gentlemen. I look forward to seeing you later this month, just after my birthday, and spending some time together, have a couple of meals together, a couple of drinks together. Thank you for spending your evening with me and making this another awesome stream. So with that, this is MidLife Live number 7 in the books. And I look forward to the August edition in just a few weeks.